Um, Okay, this is the March 6th, 2023 meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. We'll start off by everybody doing a roll call, telling us whether they're here or not. Mary Ann,
Present. Mary Ann Weatherall, present.
Corey,
Corey Evans here.
Tom,
Tom Reardon here.
Michael,
Michael Dickey here.
and Chris.
Chris Plex here.
Okay, Russell Benetti here. We have our guest star tonight, Cindy Matheson. What we're going to be hearing first, I'm not sure, I think the agenda may have it reversed, but since obviously this is not going to take as long, or it shouldn't, as long as town hall is going to, we're going to bump town hall to second. This is to go over the agreement that we have, the trust agreement that the town attorney drew up, reflecting the changes that we suggested, or at least the guys who understood what the whole thing said, Michael, and I think Chris was a big part of that, corrected the text of it, and I assume everyone read it. Is there any questions? It's not like George W. Are there any questions on or comments on the agreement, the trust agreement that we received?
I saw a typo. They defined Community Preservation Act twice. So the second definition of CPC is CPA just should be taken out.
Okay.
If you look in they define Community Preservation Act, paren, quote, CPA, close quote, close paren, and then in the next paragraph they define it again. So
Okay.
that's a typo.
It's superfluous, not erroneous, or fatal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That
Eric,
was it. Everything else looked okay to me.
I
great.
noticed in there was a section 11, there was nothing listed there. So it said 10 successors assigns, 11, there's nothing written, and then it goes 12 compliance with laws. And I wondered, was that just a typo? Is there a section missing?
Which section was that, Marianne?
That's on page, I guess it's page 1, 2. On the fourth page, and it starts with termination is at the top of the page.
Okay. Yeah.
Then it goes 9, return of funds, 10 successors and assigns, then number 11, an entire paragraph is missing. Wondered if that was intentional or was that just a typo?
I chalked it up to a typo, some kind of pagination issue. Once they accept all, it'll probably fix itself, but I don't know. But
Okay. Yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm the one I'm looking at has a red strike through it. Is that a typo on top of a typo?
Oh, I don't have that. I don't have a red stripe through that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine has a number 10, and then it looks like it was going to be underlined, but it went up about a quarter of a space and goes through it. Okay.
I don't have that.
I think what you have to do is accept the changes, and after the changes are accepted, see if it's still out of whack. And then, because when I work with documents, I find that the numbers can get all screwed up when you're making changes and stuff.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any comments on them? No? All right. One of the reasons too, and we'll have to, figure how we want to do this. And I'll let Cindy explain. The Housing Trust is about to purchase some property, and they need the money that we're holding back. So I'll let Cindy present that end of things. Personally, if the wording as we have it is acceptable, I have no problem taking a look at accepting that, which will at least speed up the money for them to make the purchase. one of the reasons why we transfer the money to the trust is the trust is able to act faster than we as a CPA could, or CPC, because we're dependent on town meeting. And that's, this agreement ties us into them or them into us, vice versa. And the purpose of the transfer is if something comes up the day after town meeting, they don't have to wait a year in order to enter into negotiations. So with that, Cindy.
So I'm coming on behalf of the trust. Was last year you generously allotted about $500,000 in our, when we came to you before town meeting, and 250 of that was dispersed right away, going for the very purpose that you mentioned, Russ, to be able to have that in the accounts in order to jump quickly if there was an opportunity to bid on a property that would be acceptable for affordable housing. And the second tranche, the 250,000, was held back pending development of project opportunities in town. And since that time, in the fall, we came across an opportunity with a woman or a tenant who lived, or sorry, a condo owner, not a tenant, at 43 Elm Street, Unit 2. And we've since signed a purchase and sale agreement with her. And the amount for the purchase price is about $101,000. We figure it's going to require roughly $50,000 to $60,000 to do some demo work and then renovation of the property in order to put it back onto the market for a deed restricted sale of Unit 2 of 43 Elm Street. So it comes to we're coming back to ask, please, for about $180,000 of the 250 that was held pending development of specific projects. And I think the last time Steve came before you as well, he showed you a number of the projects in the pipeline that we have, and it comes up to about 8 to 9 different projects in different states of development. So we feel like we have a lot going on here. We want to be sure that we're well prepared for it. This particular project is the next thing that's coming up that's going to require cash outlay. Once we have fully purchased the property, obviously, then it'll go out to bid with an RFP for the demolition portions of demolition work and reconstruction renovation. So that's the pitch for today. That's why we're here and hoping that you can help us with that. I don't think Russ, I think you're trying to say something, but it's muted.
God, I love Zoom. What do you think the value of that or what price, if you were to turn around and sell it, roughly what do you think that would be? If you feel like answering that.
Yeah,
I don't want to do anything. Well, I don't want to do anything that may jeopardize your sale. So feel free to plead the fifth.
No, we've looked at it. It's been a pretty easy call. Because it's deed restricted, there's only a certain amount that it could be sold for down the road. If the next owner decides that they would want to sell the property, would probably be somewhere in the $200,000 to $250,000 range.
Okay.
So it seems like a very reasonable investment, particularly given the movement of properties within the town, the general median house price in the town.
Yeah.
The amount is still restricted for which we could sell it, but it's it's well beyond what the cost of purchase and renovation would be.
Okay, so we're not underwater on it.
Not at all.
Not at all. Great, great. Anyone have some questions for Cindy? Mary Ann? You're muted.
What do you expect some of the renovation costs to be?
About 50 to 60,000. That includes some of the like drywall and things that may need to be taken down and put back up again.
Okay.
And I'm basing this on, so 2 members of our board have been through the house and have done some, reasonably thorough look at the property. They both have plenty of experience in construction and development. So I'm going on what they are telling us. They're not available tonight, but I'm here to convey that message. It's about 50 to 60,000 is what the estimates they've given us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Ginny would be joining us, but she can't get can't get on Zoom. Um, Ginny, you might want to drop an email to, I'm not sure whether to be Chris or Michelle. Try Michelle Leary, M Leary, Leary, at cohassetmott.org, and see if she can maybe talk you through the landing on it. Okay. Corey, any questions for Cindy?
No questions, looks good, but Cindy, you're gonna have to do this a second time for the select board. Because it's so the agreements between the select board and AHT, so thanks for doing it twice.
When is she in front of you guys?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Michael, any question for Cindy?
No, none at all.
All right. Tom,
Nope. No,
Nope.
sir.
Chris?
Just curiosity, can you tell us a little bit about the condition and the renovations? I'm not looking for an episode of house flipping, just high level.
I think it's in reasonably good shape. It's just that it's not been attended to for a while. And there may be some flooring that needs to come up. I'm not sure if they mentioned as well as a little bit of the drywall, and general clean out is what I gather from the experts who've been through there. But we're actually quite excited about this project. It's one of the first that we've had an opportunity, because it's a purchase as opposed to simply providing rental units. So adding it to the long-term housing stock in Cohasset it'll be deed restricted for 30 years. And we're really pleased to have this opportunity come up and show what we can do turning around a property.
Great.
Within affordable, both affordable capital A and affordable small a for the town.
Now, this was a Habitat for Humanity project originally, wasn't it?
I believe it was. They were the ones who had the first right of refusal to
Okay.
take the house. And they have plenty on their plate right now, including helping us working at 808 Jerusalem is the next property that we'll be taking on.
Right.
So they were quite happy that we were interested in wanting to pick this one up and hopefully turn it around into a nice condo opportunity in an affordable housing unit.
Oh, is this right across the street from the fire station? And it has like
It's very close to that, yeah.
the driveway to the water treatment plant abuts it?
Yes, the water treatment plant is kind of behind that whole area.
Okay.
And it's the second story unit that we're looking at.
Huh, great. Eric, anything for Cindy?
Nothing, done a great job. Thank you, Cindy.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a great committee to be part of, and it's very rewarding, I have to say.
Well, you guys, the only thing you could have done better is bring one of your pear tarts. It's a presentation. Cindy brought a pear tart over to the house not too long ago, and it was out of this world. And I don't know, some of you may know, I had a triple bypass, and Dr. Schubert was a big chunk of that one. And she brought it over, and Paul was with her. So I felt very confident eating it, knowing that it was cardiologist approved.
It's got fruit in it. What could be wrong with that?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Now, I don't know how you all feel about accepting this agreement. If you want, we can send it back and have any changes put in and clarification. We could approve it as is, and subject to those changes being made, rather than going for the changes and coming back, getting the approval and holding Cindy and the rest of the trust up. But I'm willing to take a motion for a vote for either of those scenarios. Personally, I have no problem. We're dealing with people who are doing good work, who've done good work for a long time. We've all known, and I think we can trust them. But I'll leave that up to the committee. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move that the Community Preservation Committee move to recommend to the select board approval of the Community Preservation Act grant agreement between the town of Cohasset and the Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay.
Uh,
Corey made first.
gonna
Michael?
say, Corey, could you just tweak that to, subject to the correction of the typos and that sort of thing?
If you feel, yeah, I mean, that was so amended.
Okay.
I'll second that then.
All right. We'll do a roll call vote. Mary Ann,
I support this project, so yay.
Michael,
Yay.
Tom,
Yay.
yay, Corey.
Aye.
Oh, you made the motion. Eric,
Aye.
aye. Chris,
Aye.
aye. Jenny, I don't know if you can hear us.
Yes,
We-
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, you probably shouldn't vote. You
I'm
weren't part of the
sorry. I
discussion.
could not get
Uh,
on, so.
No, that's
that's
okay.
the reason
But
I'm late.
did you listen to the comments that were being made?
No, I just managed to get on. I couldn't get on
Okay.
using your
All right,
previous document, so.
all right. Nothing personal. I don't think you should vote since you weren't part of the
No, that's fine. That's okay.
discussion. And what this is to accept the wording
Mhm.
of the agreement and free
Sure.
up some money so that Cindy and the group can get some affordable housing going. That being said, Russell Benetti, I vote aye as well, so it's unanimous. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you all very much.
Well done.
Obviously, we wouldn't be doing it without you.
Well, yeah, we're glad to, it's one of the 4 things we're supposed to be doing. We did develop what they're considering 4 units, which is a Tredis house. And yeah, I mean, you're fudging with semantics there because of the severity of the handicaps that the individuals have. Each one of those rooms is considered a unit of affordable housing. It's nice, but it's kind of fudging the words, and this will truly be an affordable housing unit, which I'm glad to see us develop. I wish we were further on the line in doing our 10th or 15th one, but we'll get there.
No,
Thank you, though.
we've got a bunch in the pipeline, so. hope-
Good.
Hope to hit that.
Good.
All right.
All righty, thank you all very much.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Hey, Jenny. There she
Hello.
go- There you go. This will be a presentation by the Town Hall Committee. Before we start on it, I'm sure you all saw the balance sheet I sent out and a amortization. Actually, I'll save that until after the presentation. We'll go through it then. But there's been a little change in some of the numbers. Anyway, Garrett. There you are. Unmute yourself further.
Hello.
Hello. Phil?
We have
Howdy.
Phil and Mark.
And then Mark.
Good
Okay,
evening.
if you guys can identify yourselves for the record, we all know
Sure.
who you are. I like your Hawaii poster, Garrett.
Thank you. I wish it was there.
Yeah.
Phil Lear, Chair of Town Hall Building Committee.
Mark Cameron, member of the Town Hall Building Committee.
Garrett Lubitz, member of the Town Hall Building Committee.
Anyone else? There's a spot that says Town of Cohasset. I don't know if it's the whole town calling in or an individual, but if they're not involved with this, they don't need to identify themselves.
Yeah, it
Okay.
should be just the three of us.
That's just Michelle.
Oh, Michelle,
Just-
you're going
Just Michelle.
incognito.
Is-
Okay. Fire away.
Okay, so I am the Chair of Town Hall Building Committee, and I'm going to introduce these two gentlemen who already introduced their own names, but they will be doing the presentation. I think I forwarded that to you. If somebody could put that up or give them the rights to put it up while they talk. And I apologize, I have to scoot out for another meeting, but I'm leaving you in very capable hands. So Mark and Gert, you're on.
All right, well, thank you. I assume everybody can see that, the picture of the town hall? Okay. So just open it here with a couple of renderings seen from the past of what we're planning. Town Hall Committee, there's 7 of us on the committee, and Garrett and I are here to present tonight. So just a quick recap of where we've been at over the past couple of years. So between the course of 2019 and 2020, this version of the committee was assembled, and we reviewed options to renovate the existing structure and renovate/rebuild the existing structure at 41 Highland Ave. In May 21, at annual town meeting, we were provided $750,000 to create a architectural plan for a renovate and rebuild option based on our preliminary budgetary numbers of reviewing the options that were in front of us. And then at annual town meeting of 2020, we were authorized to spend $200,000 to hire a construction management firm to provide us with pre-construction services. And at annual town meeting 23, we're looking to seek the remainder of the funding we need for this project.
All right. Thanks, Mark. So I know you guys have, we've spoken before about this project, so it's something you're familiar with. So this is more an update. Shouldn't be too much new other than some of the pricing information that we have. So as I think you know, we're fairly far along in the design process, and we're at what we call the 95% construction document, or the CD95, which is basically as close as you can get to a final plan before everything is sort of like inked and initialed. And we recently hired a construction manager to guide us through the current process, get us to construction, and then they would eventually work with us through the construction of the project as well. We had them review these CD95 documents to come up with an estimate of what the current project would cost. And you can see there the numbers that they came up with for the construction costs were about $17.8 million. And there's a breakdown, between the existing town hall, so the historic building, and then the cost to rebuild the 1980s addition. And then there's some, shared site work and other things. Adding on to that, there are soft costs and contingencies, and that then gets us to the total project budget. We've done this project, we've done this presentation before, so just but in case people have questions, one of the questions we've had is, what is VE? VE is value engineering. That's just some recommendations that were made by the construction manager that reduces the overall project cost. So that's one of the benefits of bringing a construction manager early in the process. They gave us some suggestions, which they think will save about $600,000. But we still are at an overall project cost of about $22 million. Next slide. So, what this then means is, what do we need to get to the finish line on this project? So if we start with the total project budget of $22 million or thereabouts, we have to deduct some of the money that we have already that's been appropriated for this project. We have about $1.4 million that's already been allocated for this project. So that's money that we will not need to seek funding for. And then the line here that I'm sure is of greatest interest to you for the purposes of this meeting is the potential CPC grant. So this is a number that was created by the construction manager looking at the costs that could be reasonably allocated to the historic building. So this is work that's done directly on that building, and then also looking at potential shared costs. So things like air handlers, assigning sort of a pro rata cost based off of a square footage for those items and allocating those costs. So that's where we get the $6.9 million there for the CPC grant. Now, that's just a placeholder. Obviously, you have not approved anything at this point, so we just want to share the number with you that we could potentially be looking at. And that then drops us to a new assumed total of about $13.8 million on the spend, and what that number is what we would be looking for funding for potentially at the town at the annual town meeting. Next slide, Mark. So one of the things that we've done throughout this process is just sort of level set and make sure that even though we've decided several times that what makes the most sense for Cohasset's needs is to do a renovation of the historic building and rebuild the annex, want to just make sure that nothing has changed significantly. So we had some numbers run by our construction manager. Obviously, we don't have those CD95 drawings for a total renovation of the historic and addition. But based off of a square footage assessment, they came up with a cost that would get us to about a $13.1 million total project budget, adding in some soft costs and some other things, and then deducting for potential CPC grants and doing an apples to apples comparison would get us to a total project cost of about $10.4 million. Now, there are some issues with these plans. So again, we don't think that this is something that is really the direction that we would encourage the town to go in. But we just, again, want to make sure that we're looking at this fairly, and that nothing has changed significantly with respect to the needs and the costs. And so what that leaves us with, Mark, you can move to the next slide, is the difference in the cost. So the option on the left is the renovation / rebuild. That's the picture that you saw at the beginning of this presentation. And that's about $13.8 million. And then what the strict renovation cost would be, and that's about $10.4 million. So for a difference of $3.4 million, and that number is, that's sort of independent of anything that we get from CPC. That's just sort of an apples to apples comparison. To do a renovation / rebuild is about $3.4 million more expensive than just a strict renovation only project. So I think that Mark, I think we can move to the next slide. What this is just reinforced to us is that we're right now in a place where we think we need to move forward with the renovation / rebuild project, and sort of take that project to the town. And that's our best option. We truly believe that at this point. And we're going to have to figure out the ways that we're going to fund this project and sell it to the town. And one of the ways that we're looking to fund this project is by working with CPC. Again, we had as a placeholder in there that $6.9 million. That doesn't reflect any commitments that we've received from you. Again, it's just an internal placeholder for something that could potentially be out there. So at this point, I will turn it over to the committee and see if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Mark or myself.
Russ, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Mary Ann?
Russ, can I just say,
Eric.
I haven't had a chance to review these yet. I'm sure I'll have a lot of questions once I have a chance to review. So I guess my real question is, what are you expecting from us vis-a-vis this presentation, which I just saw for the first time, and maybe other members have just seen it for the first time? Are these
Well,
general questions, whatever pops up to our mind, or what?
Yeah. And as I said in my email when I sent out the agenda and all, I wouldn't take a vote tonight. If for no other reason, then even though the CPC, what was it, 2018, so 5 years ago, approved a proposal to renovate the old part of Town Hall, which is the only part of Town Hall we can get involved in. And the costs haven't really changed all that much. But because of that, of the amount of the money that it is, and the work, I would say that we would be lacking in responsibility to knock this thing through in one night. There's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna be interested in this thing. There's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna say, oh, you rushed through it if we jam it down tonight. So anybody who's hoping to take a vote tonight, I hate to disappoint you, but I don't think we should. There's a lot to go through on this one. Tom, or Eric, is that take care of it for you?
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Tom,
I'm just interested in what is your plan for financing the portion of the construction and total cost that is not covered by CPC? So let's take whatever that number is, 10 million. Or how are you viewing that? Is that going to be a bonding?
Mark, do you want to handle that question?
So, well, we're meeting with capital budget tomorrow. I mean, Wednesday. So that'll be part of a discussion with them, but really hasn't been this committee's charge to come up with that. We're really reporting back the numbers and taking the best advice from there. I don't know
Chris, are
if
you
Michelle
on
or
this?
Chris has any more to say on that.
Chris, are you on this? Let's see your name. Yes.
who are you
I
calling,
assume you're
Tom?
asking Chris Senior.
Yes. Chris Senior.
There he is.
So Corey is here. He's the select board representative. He's probably better comment from him than me.
Okay.
That said, I think the select board has to make a decision as to how to go on this. I think a debt exclusion is probably the most likely path, or some kind of device like that. And there's been conversations going on about how to fund multiple projects. This is not the only one. And kind of package them together and move forward. So those conversations are ongoing now. But the magnitude of the project is such that you really can't fit it in the regular budget. Doesn't fit. Is that a fair answer?
I'd leave that to Corey.
Yeah, before, just one thing before Corey answers that. Chris has become a father again, 4-year-old golden retriever. What name did you give it, Chris? Kayla?
Kayla, spelled in the Gaelic fashion, Cadhla.
Oh,
So she's hiding in my bedroom right now. She's not.
You will certainly have a problem when you go and register that one. No one will be able to spell the name.
I know.
Yeah.
Don't be able to pronounce it.
Well, we'll have to introduce my new dog, Zinzizwa, which is a Zulu name for a dog that came from Ireland, and I think she may speak Gaelic, the two will get along well. But congratulations, Mr. Senior. Okay, Corey, take it away, buddy.
Sure. Tom, would you mind just restating the question a little bit? We've kind of gone in circles, so I want to be sure I hit on exactly what you're interested in.
what I'm interested in is the portion that you're not looking to the CPC to fund. What will be the funding mechanism for that?
So yeah, that's what Chris kind of alluded to. So we obviously this can't fit in the operating budget as it is. Currently, the town hall is already stressing the operating budget based on repairs and needs we have. So kind of, we're seeing, at least from my perspective, increasing creep of this building when it comes to in the operating budget. And the original charge of this committee was to try to figure out something in the operating budget within it. However, that increasingly, it seemed like it increasingly became hamstringing. It would hamstring the budget if we really tried to shoehorn it. It would have a lot of sacrifices. So we've talked about debt exclusions and what that would entail. We've talked about other creative mechanisms to, allow the town to authorize use of funds in like a two-step way, and kind of how much. Try to figure out a way to prioritize the projects. We've been talking about that also with the Capital Budget Committee and the Long-Term Financial Planning Committee, because there's no doubt that there's a lot of things in town. And obviously, if we had a big bag of cash, that'd be one thing, but that's not the case. So we have to figure out exactly how to be strategic about things, things that are making decisions for us and to stay ahead of them. But also, figure out whether the value is in any of these projects, and then kind of how we generate the revenue. So all that being said, it's a lot of words. My apologies, Tom. We're still trying to figure it out, and we're hoping to have something for annual town meeting. while we have, the one thing that we really haven't seen on the select board too much, and I think would be really great for this committee is, I mean, if 5 million of this is going to come from CPC and this committee is going to even consider it, I think the question is kind of what is it buying us, right? That we know that the town, the whole project is X, but if our money's only going to the historic part of the building, and it sounds like it's in disrepair, what is, so we've heard about the budget. So I would love to hear from the town hall building committee a little bit more about whatever contribution we give as CPC, since it's limited, what that's actually going to go to besides, siding and roofing and all that kind of stuff. If that'd be appropriate for the committee to hear about, and the town hall building committee could give us that information.
I think the appropriate time, that would be helpful. I don't think we need that now, though.
Okay.
Jenny?
Is it appropriate to ask for a rough estimate of how much this would cost the CPC each year relative to our estimated income? And would there be anything left or any, and how long would that obligation last?
Very
Because
appropriate.
there are many constituents for CPC monies, so.
It's very appropriate. It's what I started to address at the beginning, but I think it's better after the presentation. It certainly is going to have an impact on CPC, and it's something that we're going to have to weigh. The validity of the project isn't secondary to me, but boy, when you look at what's going to do to our income, it's something we've got to look at good and hard, because anyone of us who's had a mortgage, I was a mortgage banker for 20 plus years. We used to joke that after about 10 years, you own the doorknob. And we got to look at that. And I have some figures which I'd sent out, and we'll go over those again tonight. Anyone else from CPC with some questions? Chris?
Do you want to follow up on Ginny's question now? I mean, and I could talk you through a little bit if you want. So, and again, we'll share more details. So Jennifer Mullen, our finance director, ran some numbers, and she took $5 million, ran it for 30 years. And she prefers to use what's called level principal payments. So you pay the same amount of principal. So it cuts the interest cost over time. And it also lowers the cost over time. So you start out higher and then it falls every year. So it opens up more room as time goes by back into the budget. So CPC now generates about $650. That's including the match. I seem to be slowing down a little bit, so I hope you can still hear me. And so in the first year, this debt, $5 million over 30 years would be $366,000 at the current rates of interest, which is about 4%. And then it declines every year from there. It probably wouldn't go to bond, though, for at least 2 years. Definitely not before 2025, but maybe not even until 2026, depending on how the project develops. So in that time, the CPC would continue to generate other revenues. So, for example, it's about $900,000, give or take, in the various funds, including about $500,000 in the undesignated. And then there's another $650 coming in this year and another $650 coming in next year. So there's quite a lot of money still in there. That said, without question, this would take up a very large chunk of funds, and it would decline. And again, I don't have we can most certainly distribute a chart to show. At the same time, CPC revenue continues to climb every year based on values and the government contribution. So,
Chris, could you clarify one thing? When you said so for the undesignated, sorry, you gave us a document that said undesignated historic community housing open space. That is funds that the CPC has not yet allocated to anything, or have they allocated the subheadings, but not?
No, those are on
No,
that's money sitting in accounts.
Those are funds that can be expended.
We haven't. Okay, thank you.
Chris, were you looking, when you said 360,000, were you looking at a 20-year figure?
It's 30. Jennifer's looking at 30 because of the life of the building.
Well, then her figures she provided me either are erroneous or well, whatever. I mean, I'm looking at a chart sheet that I received per million, and I believe it was 4%. At 25 years, a million would be 80,000. So 5 million would be 400,000.
Right.
That's
So,
2/3 of our income. This
so,
is not the current rate that we're being reimbursed or matched by the state is high. But you don't have to go back too far before you hit days where the match from the state was not even in the double digits, which we could easily find ourselves in again. Today, I know Larry Summers was saying that a recession would not be too surprising to him. And we got to look at that and what that's going to do. And this is going to tie up a lot of our income for a long time. I know we approved the project for about the same dollar amount, actually about 4 million, 5-6 years ago. But we looked at the time at bonding 2.5 million of it with $1.5 million in cash from our unreserved. Now, and this is something I'd like a bit of an explanation on. About a month ago, I was told that our unreserved funds were $2.9 million. Last week, I believe it was, maybe the week before. Either way, just recently, I got a surprise. It's more like 500,000. So before, we had the luxury of having cash to put in, having less to bond. And Tom would probably know better than I, because I don't really keep that close track on it. But I think we probably had a more favorable bond market 4 or 5 years ago than we do now. So we have to look at that. That's going to keep us not insolvent by any stretch, but that's a big chunk of income. We have historic preservation that we can do. God knows we need to do more in affordable housing, and to take 2/3 of our income away for, if I read this, before we got down to, if the income stays at, say, 700,000, it'd be 10, well, no, about 13 years before we knock 10% of that out. So the long-term effect of this, I find very concerning. I have no question about the validity of the program or the project. I do not doubt that we need it. My concern is in the process as it's running right now, is that it's going to gut the CPC and leave it a shadow of itself for a number of years. And that's just how I look at it. You and I have talked about it. So I know it's no surprise, but that's something we have to pay serious attention to. Anyone have a question or comment?
I have a question, Russ.
Eric?
Mr. Lubitz, I think are you the one in charge of this project here tonight? Do we try to address you? Or
I'm not in
address-
charge, but
okay.
we're all here together. Yeah.
In my past business days, which was not exactly recent, things like this always began with a very precise, well-worded project statement of objectives, what's trying to be achieved, what the estimated cost is going to be, how many people are going to be involved. And this is the key document before a project like this starts. I've never been involved in a project where we just start saying, let's build something without any cost estimate that we're shooting for. That doesn't seem to be successful. Do you have a project statement here that we can look back and say, this is what they're trying to do, other than just make a building that looks nice, that houses a lot of people, that eventually it costs us $20 million? I mean, I'm kind of left high and dry here, trying to find something and say, well, this is what they're trying to do. Are they getting close to it? Have we deviated from it? Because in the end, if you don't have a document like that, we can never measure whether you're successful or not. So may I have this document if you have it?
So we do have a charge that was given to the committee when we were formed. Let me pull it up for you.
Well, maybe not
so this
tonight.
is-
I'm not sure if we can.
Okay.
I would certainly like to see it, because that's what I think will tell me what you're trying to do, other than just build a building for what, 150 people.
So this is from the Board of Selectmen in January 2019 when we were charged. We can share this with you later, but here's the document that actually is here, which has a number of requirements. Basically saying that we need to design a building that comes up that meets the needs of the town, has to remain on the town common, and we have to keep the 1857 historic structure. And then seek to basically make it as affordable for the town as we can. I honestly can sit here and say that I think that we have met every single one of these requirements that we were tasked with. And I understand that the cost is higher than anybody would like it to be, myself included. But I understand, given the needs and given the marching orders that we received, it is what it is. And, if we feel like we need to come up with something that's within a budget, that wasn't what we were given. We weren't given, marching orders of design the best building that you can for $10 million. And even if we had, we'd now be well over that, given the costs that we've seen to increase, over the last few years. This project alone has gone from about $15 million to $20 million over the last 15 months. We're facing sort of unprecedented times, and I'm sure you've heard that before from many other people in many other circumstances. But it really is true, and we're doing the best that we can under the circumstances. And we'll see. If it's not something that the town has an appetite for, then it won't. And the last 3 years, we're going to be back to where we were 3 years ago, which is back to where we were 3 years before that, and we're going to keep sort of being the dog chasing its tail. Because the building isn't fixing itself. So.
And to add to Garrett's points there is, we designed the building to the needs and the head count and the spatial requirements to fulfill and check the boxes of what the town needs, and to provide that space, including offices for the head count that we have, and meeting space. As you can see from the existing building, we don't have the appropriate meeting space. Meetings are often held in different town buildings because the town hall itself can't house those meetings. So that was part of the charge, was to provide those spatial requirements. And so we have done that, to Garrett's point.
Okay.
And just one more point on that front. The other thing we were charged to do is make sure that it was flexible in order to be able to meet the needs in the future to the extent possible without changing the footprint. So there are only 2 columns in the new part of the, in the rebuilt annex, so that the walls can be moved and everything in order to accommodate any changing needs that we have.
Which is something very different from the building that we have now today, is the interior structure. The configuration of the stairs and the structural components in the building does not allow us to demo the interior makeup and provide a new layout. The proposed building that we have here in front of us would allow many years down the road for the interior to be gutted and renovated to a future need, 30, 40, 50 years from now.
Thank you.
Russ?
Sorry. Jenny?
I think we all agree that this is a well-developed project and it's gotten to a good place. My question is, rather than gutting the CPC and the rest of its constituents for a long, long time, why can't the town bond more and take less from the CPC so that we have something for other constituents?
Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
Virginia, that's perfectly up to this committee, right? This is, right, this
I mean,
there's
would that be
priorities.
feasible for the
Yeah, I
town?
mean, yeah,
Bond a
this,
little
well,
more?
of course, I mean, it's, we've got this cost and we need to slice the butter up as ever we can. The question for this committee is, we obviously you have all these priorities: recreation, historic preservation, affordable housing, and you have to figure out how you slice that stick of butter yourself. This is clearly a historical building, probably the most historical in town, or one of the, and it clearly needs a lot. So the question then is, there's going to be a sacrifice in getting this done. I do think that CPC, as a policy level, CPC, everyone's going to take a little bit of a haircut here. I think kind of it's town-wide, everyone, tax bills and whatnot. CPC funding, the historic portion, does send a message that, the historical preservation side of this is important. Because again, and I think, Mark, my apologies, I'm kind of paraphrasing you here, but and during the select board meeting last time, you said that really preservation and renovation is such a wild card of expense that it's really easy to knock something down and just rebuild. And that's clearly not what we want to do here for the historic town hall. So CPC, I think, one of the calculations is saying, well, it's going to be more expensive to rebuild this, but we value that. And then we have to figure out kind of what that means for the budget going forward.
I don't think anyone would argue with that at all, although I wouldn't say it's a particularly distinguished historic building, it's surrounded by 25 or 30 other historic buildings. Be that as it may, the decision has been made. I'm just saying that could the town bond a little more and take a little less from the CPC in light of the fact that there are 3 other constituents of this organization, and not depend on us to fund it, the lion's share of that renovation.
And that's why CPC is an independent board, right? I mean, it's, you guys, this board has the authority to figure out its own priorities, and that separation is important. So for sure. And then whatever the select board has to make up, we have to make up.
Thank you.
I would take exception that this is a chance for the CPC to show how important historic preservation is to CPC. We've done a lot of
I was
historic
referencing this building in particular. My apologies,
And
Mr. Chair, if I misphrased that.
Hold on. We've done a lot of historic preservation. We've done a lot of historic preservation in our town. My problem is, are we mortgaging our future to an extent that's acceptable? When this is all done, if we take the $500,000 we have in our account and then go for a bond on top of it, we're going to have less than 500,000, well, less than 500. We're going to have less than $250,000, part of which is open space, and we're going to have 2 more proposals from the town coming in. One for 200 to lead up the open space, and the other, which will actually put us in the red. And that is what I think cannot be under stressed. Anyway, that's it for me. Anyone else?
I will
Marianne.
speak. I think you've done a great job and meeting the goals of what the select board put before you, and also bringing in the value engineering, the Commodore builders. I thought that was well done, but the 6 million is really high and very much depletes our budget. And I do think about, I represent open space, and to do the fields, Jenny with affordable housing, historic sites, yes, this is a historic building, but is it that important to put that much in? Because in the end, when we have to get a loan, I think that's what we have to get, is a loan, and the voters don't vote on that. So I get very concerned for us to make such a big, giant decision on 6 million. I could digest something much smaller than this, but this affects, as we have said, the multiple entities that all depend on our money, and parks and small playgrounds. And I just don't see us being able to do that in the future. And that's what concerned me a lot.
I didn't mean to imply that I wouldn't cut back on the project. If you're going to do a renovation decently, you do it. And you have the figures and you know what needs to be done. I'm just saying some of the money may have to come from someplace else. That's all. But I would not cut back on the
Well,
renovation.
I wouldn't do that, but I just wonder, are there municipal grants, or I'm sure you're looking at this, municipal grants, or what other tax credits, what other type of funding is going to support this? Like, I don't think it can all come, the 6 million can come from this.
Mary Ann, I think the fact that they put a plug number in doesn't tie us to anything.
Mhm.
You know, they could put $22 million. So I think we've got to figure out how to balance the various interests.
We were
Thank you,
just
Richard.
showing the cost that could reasonably be allocated to the old town hall as a cap to what could be funded by CPC. So, you know, obviously whatever you all think is the right number is the right number, but the actual costs that can be attributed to the restoration of the old town hall are roughly 6.9 million. So that's why that number is there.
And that's what I'm focusing on. Yes. Thank you.
Hey, Russ,
Michael,
of the 6 million, it sounds as if some of that 6 million is shared costs. And, you know, obviously we're restricted on what we can use the CPC funds for.
right.
Has anybody thought about whether this, you know, shared cost concept is something that we can move forward with, or you know, do we want to kind of be a little careful about that shared cost concept?
Chris, you want to answer that one?
The largest project in Massachusetts CPC history was the renovation of the Needham Town Hall, which includes multiple shared systems. They built an entire building attached to the historic building, and they tied it together. Your question is a very well put one, and so long as the architect, which the designers have gone through that kind of assessment, which I believe they have in detail. The answer is yes, it's totally okay. So long as you document what you do, right? If the historic section is 10% and you can only charge like 10% of the HVAC, right? But it's not like that for this. I think the buildings are comparatively sized the same, right? Or maybe the historic buildings maybe a little bit bigger. But there's an economy of scale of obviously putting, and again, I'm not trying to speak for the committee here, of doing joint systems. You know, you don't have two separate heating systems and cooling systems. I think one of the things that will help bring that historic building into the 21st century and beyond is modernizing its heating and cooling and electrical systems. Because boy, that building, if you've been in the basement of that building, you look at the circuit breakers. I mean, they're pre-World War II. And they're not breakers, by the way, they're little knob and tube things. And the bathrooms we use still to this day by staff only on the second floor from the 1930s. I mean, they're kind of cool, but they're from the 1930s. And our staff has to jury rig them to keep them working. So the question, Michael, is that yes, their shared systems are okay, so long as they're documented properly.
And we did go through that exercise with our owner's project manager, Vertex, who's well-versed in what's allowable with CPC funds. And so we did make sure that everything associated with CPC funds was correctly allocated.
I would like to point out, though, that up until now, the CPC has not been involved in any of the discussions. So it's nice to say that everything, according to whoever it is, qualifies for CPC. It would be a lot nicer if CPC had been part of the discussion all along. Call it ego, call it whatever you want, but I resent us being brought in at the last minute. Corey.
Russ.
I was going to say, I mean, one thing I think would be helpful to the committee is was to ask Jennifer Mullen, the town finance director, to come in and give us, I mean, these are just numbers in a row. Give us some context, give us some different options. You know, what does 2 million mean? What does one? I mean, Russ, you mentioned 2.5 million before with different bond rating. I mean, if the concern sounds like we're all concerned about what this does future, we should have some options here. So we have at least a little bit of decision matrix to have in our heads. Does that make sense?
one of the things I sent out last week before, was a cost per million. Running up to, I think it ran from 5, 10, 20, and 25 years. So you can adjust it from that quite easily. But yeah, I think it would be worth having her come in to talk to us about it. Like I say, it's going to have a huge impact, and it's the other reason why we're not doing a vote tonight. There's a lot more to this than just, yeah, it's a cool project, which it is, and it's a needed project. But we have a responsibility as a committee to exercise some fiduciary control over the money that the taxpayers trust to us. Obviously, what we do doesn't make it go through town meeting, but we're the beginning of it. And, you know, you want to talk about the buck stops here. You can say it starts here, it stops here, but it's here. So that's what we have to keep in mind.
Russ, may I ask a question? I know it's not our business, but it would be helpful for us in taking this decision if we knew what sort of pain it was going to be for the town. If we, for example, turned it down and said, no money from CPC, because, you know, to me, that's a black hole. You know, I'd like to know if the town has to go ahead and finance this on their own, whether Cohasset becomes a junk bond issue, or what are we, all right? Because I have no idea how difficult it is in terms of the town's position in the capital markets to finance all or a portion of what you're asking us to do. So, Corey, if we could have a sense of what, how the town sees the financing and what sort of pain the town's going to have if we turn it down, that would be helpful to us.
No, certainly. And yeah, and we've, you know, thanks to Chris and good financial policies, historically, we're at a AAA bond rating. And
Yeah.
I know the Capital Budget Committee has made it a priority to not lose that. And so they have, and again, capital budget's going to be, you know, weighing in on any sort of expenditure of funds or any debt exclusions or overrides or whatever. And that's going to be absolutely their focus. They've been on this for 2 years, as far as or more, or longer, really, since before many town hall projects before. So that's a conversation that's happening for sure, and a concern.
Okay.
Russ, can we
The
do an
CPC
analysis?
has not always been involved in capital budget discussions. I expect we will be in this one. Mike Dick and I have been talking, and I think we should be. But CPC money is not town capital. The CPA was written to protect the money and entrust it in the hands of a committee, but mainly in the end to town meeting. I just wanted to make that clarification. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Jenny, you were getting? Jenny? You were
No,
gonna say-
I think
Oh,
Mary
what?
Ann.
Oh, Mary Ann?
Hi,
Fire away.
Russ. Russ, what would be helpful to me is to see an analysis over the next 10 to 20 years of how much the CPC is estimated to receive from the taxes. I think that if there could be an analysis, so we just know what's coming in.
Mhm.
I know there's no crystal ball, but I would like to just project.
Well, yeah, they project now and they project on the low side. You know, certainly I would too if I was projecting it. I don't see where there should be a problem. I mean, I'd rather work with low side figures anyway. But you know, you get an idea of what our revenue from the town is.
Mhm.
The state match isn't carved in stone. It's when it first started, the state match for the CPC was 100%. And when it went down to like 27%, I remember people at town meetings saying, "Oh, let's get out of it." Well, you know, you're going to turn down a 27% return offered by a government agency. So, you know, we lowball it. But yeah, I agree with you, Mary Ann. We need to have an idea. I think, I mean, for myself, the biggest question to me is, how's this going to affect the CPC? You know, it's got to look at it that way. Anyway, anything else, Mary Ann?
No, just projections would be helpful.
Okay.
And perhaps, I mean, if we did do a loan, let's say for 6 million, how much is that going to cost us year to year? For 30
Uh,
years, let's do
yeah.
the highest number. And just to get some ideas.
Yeah, there's, in one of the packages, there's a spreadsheet that's principal and interest, 1 million. 25 years, 1 million for the first year would be 80,000. So 5 million would be 400,000. 6 would be 480,000. Our income this year was less than 700,000. Before that dropped $10,000, you'd be looking at year 8 when it would be 68,800 per thousand. If we did 5,000 or 5 per million rather, we did 5 million, it'd be, well, what's 68 times 5? 340, be $340,000 for 5 million. So it's, there was an old song called "The Taxes on the Farmer Feed Us All," and talks about a mortgage, which is what we're going to be doing. It worked hard through the winter. We worked all through this winter, the summer, and the fall, but the mortgage worked the hardest and the steadiest of us all. It worked on nights and weekends. It worked on holidays. It settled in amongst us, and it never went away. This will go away, but it's going to take a bite on its way out. Anyway, Michael, you should be glad I didn't try to sing it. I have a tendency to make a lot of music references. Sorry. Anyway, any other questions, Chris? Or Corey, rather. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Marianne, because I've got the sheet that has the payments, if it'd be helpful to share that right now. Okay, just because I think it's on everyone's mind, so I've got that
Sure.
ahead of me.
I'm
And this
truly
was-
concerned about
Yeah.
affecting.
Yeah, and this was on the
Other
five,
groups.
the $5 million payment. And I think it would, and this didn't make much sense to me until Chris mentioned that it's flat principal payments. So the principal, that's why it's kind of, it's top down here. But yeah, this is for 5 million. So you can see it starts up high and kind of goes down. Because
Russ, these
That
are the
includes
figures you
interest?
sent out, aren't they?
I'm sorry.
These are the figures you sent out, are they not?
I sent this out, yes. And this
it's
is
included in one of the emails.
this is interest only, did you say, Corey?
No, this is flat principal. So
Okay.
that's why it goes down. And usually when you
Yeah.
see a 30-year payment, it's flat, but it goes down because every year the principal is the same. And as the interest goes down, the payment goes down.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, this
Okay.
top 10 years, it's a lot of money. And I can stop sharing when everyone's ready.
I
Russ,
just
can you
say
resend that?
Oh, go ahead, Mary.
I'm sorry, Ginny. Russ, can you resend that, this document? I don't recall seeing this one.
Yeah, I'll send that on.
Okay.
No problem. Okay. Anyone else? Michael? Oops.
I'm good.
Okay. Jenny?
Can I just say to the members of this committee, representing affordable housing, and I live there myself, and we do get substantial help with capital projects from the state. And we're probably the best match of any constituent group involved with CPC. But it has really made a huge difference to have CPC money when we needed it. And we do provide the town with 76 units of affordable housing that will never be replaced by the town for seniors and disabled. But it does mean a great deal, and it's really helped us through some projects that otherwise, we'd have to rely on the state for, and they have their restrictions too. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Mhm.
And does anyone else have anything?
No, I feel similar. We have, for Open Space Committee, we have a lot of field projects that we want to develop and support baseball fields and the soccer fields and this will not be able to support that. It's a large number.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an awful lot that, that we do that will be, hampered, I guess would be a good word, with this. That's why I say, you know, we're not ready to make a decision tonight. But, no, for some reason I've lost my screen. So.
You're there.
You're
Yeah,
there.
we can see you, Russ.
I'm there. I can't see you guys though. Isn't that weird?
We
Russ,
got
while
you.
you're figuring that out, one more question. Marianne had asked for the projections of the income that we can expect over the next, I think, 30 years would be an
Right.
appropriate time period to ask for.
Mhm.
I would like to tag on to that something that's going to help us understand what the minimum income might be. So the projections are helpful, but if there's a floor to it, I think that's also something we should pay attention to as we're thinking about our commitments for the future.
Okay, what was the source of those numbers?
I don't, they were requested. I don't think they were provided. So Marianne,
Oh, okay.
if I understand correctly, was asking for someone to help us get projections
Yes.
of what we can expect.
Mhm.
And I was asking to, in those projections, include something that's going to help us understand the potential floor of the income that we can expect. Because it does vary year to year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll ask Jen for that. I assume that Chris is still on. I can't tell. All I'm seeing on the screen is me. And, you know, not the most pleasant side I've ever seen. But if Chris can add that, or I'll get that in the minutes. If we can get that from Jen, I think that would be helpful. It's something we have to look at, you know. And,
So CPC is a surcharge on everyone's tax bill. That's how it works. So
Yeah.
the floor never goes down because unless the valuation of Cohasset drops, which has never happened. But we can run an estimate, you know, based on that. That said, the valuation of Cohasset changes on a regular basis. So, and there's new growth and all of that. So, but again, the base of CPC is a surcharge on everyone's real estate tax bills. And again, I don't remember the percentage off the top of my head. Cohasset does not max out. I think it does about half the amount that it could. And the
Yeah.
state match is tied to that. So we can give you what the numbers are, Chris, for the last like few years, and then kind of project out what they might be. So
That'd be
We're-
helpful. Thank you.
Right.
We're
with
at
the
one
growth
and-
projection.
we're at 1.5%. You can go as high as 3. So we're kind of hanging halfway through there. Okay. I'm sorry, who did I just interrupt? Oh, hello? Are there any other questions? Hello?
doesn't look.
Yeah,
No one's responding to you, Russ. I think.
We're
I
still
have
here, Russ.
I have no idea what this thing is doing. But
There are no questions.
there are no questions. Okay. Now, you all saw the balances that we have. We have estimated revenues here in this one sheet. I'll send all this stuff out after the meeting. Jen appears to be projecting 632,500 for estimated revenue. That includes 57.5 from the state, but I think that number should be higher. While she's being conservative, and I appreciate that, and I would prefer that, I like to have a little bit more range of that one. We have one bond payment left of 19,000. We have administrative costs of 31,000, which is ridiculous, but by law, we can take 5%. We have to turn what we don't spend back, and rarely do we spend more than a couple $1,000s. But in undesignated funds right now, we have $513,490. Historic funds, 47,409. So we could take those two, combine them to be what, 560,000? And have to bond that much less, and, you know, hope that we make up for it. Community housing, we have 200,000. Open space, we have 125,000. So, it's, no, I'm gonna beat a dead horse. That's
What about
we have.
recreation?
Recreation, oh, that comes under open space,
Okay.
125,000. We have two more requests, which I didn't put on the agenda tonight. Both from the town. One is to fund a fields study, and it's a couple $100,000. And the other for the Beechwood our Beechwood playground. Combined would leave us with just the 200,000 in community housing and 47,000 in historic. Those I didn't put on tonight because, you know, we got a pretty full plate as it is. Anyway, if there are no more questions, we'll move on to approving the minutes. Anyone have any changes to any of the minutes that we sent out?
Nope.
No? Okay. Are there any public comments? Anyone out in greater viewing
Russ.
land who'd like to make a comment?
Russ, recognizing you can't see people raising their hands.
Okay.
Russ, Marianne raised her hand.
Oh, okay. Mary Ann.
On agenda or in the minutes from September 26th, in paragraph, fourth paragraph down, my name is spelled incorrectly, and I represent open space. It said citizen at large, which maybe I do, but I also wanted to recognize that I represent the open space and recreation
Okay.
committee.
Oh, okay. Can you send me an email about that and
Sure.
I'll get it changed?
Sure.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Yeah, the open space, or I mean, open seats, are Tom, Michael, who's doing double duty since he's on ZBA, and myself. So that's just a typo, not a problem. Any other questions on the minutes?
Marianne, did you say the February 6th one or a different one? I'm sorry.
I was referring to September 26th.
You're also misspelled
2022.
as absent on February 6th as well. You probably didn't look at those because you were absent, but you were misspelled there.
Right. You are absolutely right. I am misspelled there as well.
Are you all set with the Town Hall Building Committee?
I believe we are. Is there any other questions? Are there any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Member comments, Mary Ann.
Regarding today's meeting,
Whatever.
regarding the town hall, I would look for us to fund a smaller amount of the town hall. I'm
Okay.
very concerned about us taking on a loan and not having the town vote on it.
Well, the town will be voting on anything we do, because it has to go to town meeting. We don't approve, we recommend, and
Well,
town
you
meeting has the
recommend.
final
It's-
say.
Right,
In the case of the town hall, just as a few years ago, this will go to the ballot. So what we do tonight, and what ends up going through to town meeting is what will eventually, the next week, actually, I believe it is, maybe 2 weeks after, will be voted on by the entire town.
Mhm.
The last time we participated in rehabilitation of the old part of Town Hall, which has outlasted the new part of Town Hall by a good deal, it unfortunately went down at the ballot. This is personal on my part, personal comment on my part. It's a damn shame that the Town Hall project a few years ago got scuttled in the way that it did. We wouldn't be where we are now. We'd be in a new town hall, and we'd be in it for a lot less than we're going to be. Anyway, that's me. Michael, anything? No?
Hear you.
Okay, Jenny?
Yeah,
do you
no,
have-
no, but I second your kind of editorial comment about it's too bad that the town wasn't a little, or the good citizens of the town weren't a little more farsighted a couple of years
Yeah.
ago.
Well, you know, I mean, as you remember, the big rallying cry on the opposing side was no override. And, you know, if you really looked at it, they were right. There wasn't going to be an override. It was excluded debt. But unfortunately, people bought into there was no, oh, we do the town hall, we're going to have an override. We wouldn't have, but yeah, we'd be a hell of a lot better than we are right now. Anyway, editorialize again. Chris, anything for comments?
Agree with everyone. It's a lot of money. It scares me a little bit to make that kind of commitment, considering our annual budget. I think they're going to have an even tougher fight with the town and the town's people than they're going to have with us. It's an expensive project, and it still has the baggage of the last time around. But that wasn't your question. That was just my thoughts. Other than that, I'm good.
It's a valid thought, and I hope never to make people feel uncomfortable to discuss what their thoughts are. That's why we have a committee of 9. Anyway,
Russ?
Ginny,
I think we should give enough money so that people understand that we do support the renovation of this historic structure.
oh yeah,
But our concerns are for other constituents. I mean, we do need to give. I'm just thinking less, you know, a little less.
Ginny, tagging on to Ginny for a second, and I know I already had my turn, but would it be responsible of us to set that expectation with the town hall committee that we like the project, we think we can support the project, but holy smokes, not at 5 million?
Yeah, or 6-7 million is really what they're asking.
And I don't know if that's something we vote on, but it seems like that might be helpful as they're working through the rest of their process, so they get some expectation.
it would be something we would vote on. We've done it before. I have no problem with it, and we can't do it right now because we closed that part of the hearing. But
to
otherwise,
provide
yeah,
some formal guidance.
I think it's totally appropriate, and I think it's necessary for us to show whatever support we have, because whether we do 5 million or 500,000, it's something that needs to be done. Not necessarily entirely by us, but you know, that's where it is.
Russ, I must say that I personally would be very reluctant to vote on anything until we see the funding apparatus for the whole project. I'd like to know what kind of debt is going to be incurred by this project. I think we ought to be a participant, but at what level and how much pain we ask the CPC to take ought to be dependent upon how the whole cost structure is financed. So just as an individual, I'd be reluctant to vote anything right now.
Tom, I agree with everything you said. Unfortunately, I don't think Russ heard you because I think he dropped.
Oh.
I just,
We did.
Look at the tape.
I support you, Tom, at that, exactly.
Tom, just.
Maybe
I
if we
wonder-
had a table, if it went down in increments of 500,000 or 1 million even, and we could see, okay, if we gave 4 million, you know, what would it cost us if we gave 3 or whatever? That would be helpful to me.
And how would what we're doing balance against what the town is being asked to do
Exactly.
independently?
We need more information.
Do we need to
He's
take action pretty
back.
soon, though?
Yeah, we need, actually, that leads me to the next question. When do you all want to meet again? I mean, May sounds like a long way away, but it isn't.
Maybe when we have a more complete picture of the finances. First of all, to get the statistical stuff we had talked about.
Yep.
Also be interested in how we went from 2.5 million to 500,000 in the reserve account.
Yep.
And then what we see as the options for moving forward.
Okay. Jen unfortunately was not available tonight. If she's available for next Monday, do you want me to schedule a meeting for next Monday? And we're gonna have to meet on this a couple times before town meeting. Because once we're done with this, we still have to go in front of advisory and we still have to go in front of the selectmen. So time is tight. How's next Monday look for you guys? It's fine with me, but
I'm
Work,
on
okay.
vacation.
I can do next one.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I can, yeah.
Yeah, I can do next Monday, Russ, please.
Okay,
I'm
That's my
fine.
knowledge.
okay. Corey?
Sorry, come to think of it, no, I'm up in Buffalo next week on business, and I think my flight out is Monday evening. Sorry.
Okay, no. I'm sorry you have to go to Buffalo. Chris, does next Monday work for you?
Yeah, I can make next Monday work.
Okay, I mean, if you can't, that's cool too, because we'll have enough for a quorum. We can get the information disseminated out to everybody and we can meet again. So I want to keep the meetings to a minimum, not to sound like a broken record, not that I'm telling you something you don't already know, but most of you already have other time commitments on top of this. So we'll try to keep them to a minimum. But why don't we shoot for next Monday?
Fine.
And we'll hopefully have all the stuff we need. Okay,
Russ, in case you did not hear, I'm going to be on vacation, so I won't be around, but you can definitely move on without me.
I think we'll still have a quorum. Okay, going someplace warm, I hope.
I'm going to California, but I think it's going to rain and snow.
Oh, God. I know, 12 feet of snow. Can you imagine? I'm sorry.
I hope it's
Oh,
Southern California.
Yeah, they got snow
No.
too. But now, my favorite part of every meeting is asking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Tom, who seconded? Michael? Okay, we gotta do a roll call on it. Mary Ann? You're muted.
she signed off.
Uh,
Second, I agree.
Eric had her proxy.
Okay, Chris?
Aye.
Corey?
I,
Ginny?
Aye.
Eric?
Yes, sir.
Hi, buddy. And Michael?
You bet, yep.
Okay, I'll join it. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Russ.
It
Thank you.
was a good meeting and we'll get the rest of the information and bang away at it again.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.